Welcome back to the class. In this lesson, we'll be creating the color scheme for our landing page. Now, this is a crucial step in any design process, so we need to pay close attention to it. There are also a couple of tools that I use all the time to simplify this part, and I'm going to show you those tools as well. Ready? Let's go. Let's begin by opening our starter kit in Figma and going to the Colors tab or the Colors page. And right here, you can see that I've created for you 4 frames. And if you don't know what frames are, well, this is a frame, basically. It's a way of organizing content on the canvas. But we'll talk about frames in just a little bit. Right now, let's focus on the colors. Whenever you're starting a project like this, I recommend you divide your colors in these 4 categories: primary, secondary, tertiary, and grays. The primary colors will be the ones that you use the most, and usually you would use them for buttons or links. Secondary colors are usually for certain accent pieces, and they should work harmoniously with the primary colors. Tertiary colors are those that are not very prominent. You would use them maybe once in a page or in certain situations like contextual coloring for an input state, error, success, information, things like that. In our case, we'll be using the tertiary colors mostly for icons. And then finally, grays are mostly used on text, but you can use them on other elements in your page as well, like maybe some icons, dividers, and so on. So what I have here is a collection of 10 of these squares in each category, and each one is lighter by 10% than the one before it. Essentially, we have the main color and 9 tints. And if you don't know what a tint is, well, it's very simple. When you mix a color with white, you get a tint of that color. When you mix a color with black, you get a shade of that color. And a shade is therefore a darker version of a color. A tint is a lighter version of the color. And I always recommend, when defining a color scheme, that you create these tints. You can also create shades if you want, but I usually just create tints because it gives me options. When I'm choosing a color for a design, I might look at the main color and say, okay, that's a little bit too intense for me, so maybe I'm going to use a tint of it, maybe somewhere from this area or from this area. But the idea is I can see them and I can decide which one works best at that point. So how do we pick the colors? Well, usually it all starts with the branding. So what colors does the brand you're designing for use? In our case, under brand assets, we can find this colored logo. And this makes it really easy for us because I can define 2 primary colors from here. I can define this blue and I can define this purple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in this SVG file into Figma simply by dragging and dropping. And you can see that by selecting any of these components, under Fill, we will find a linear gradient. Click that, and that will give us our 2 colors. So let's click on this one. Let's copy its hex value. This is one representation of that color. And let's select this entire frame, this entire group of elements, and where it says selection colors, click and paste. And this is one of the more awesome features of Figma. Instead of selecting each element individually and changing its color, when you're selecting more than one element, it activates this section called Selection Colors. And you can change colors individually there. Or in my case, because I was using the same color, black, before, my selection just showed me that black color. And by changing that, it changed the color of every single element in this group. Don't worry if this seems a bit weird. I'm gonna tell you more about this as we're progressing in this class. So right now you can see that we defined the first primary color, which is this blue. Let's define the second one. So let's go back to linear. Let's select this element, copy, and then we'll select this frame that you can see here. And we can do one of two things. We can duplicate it by hitting Command or Control D. So Command D if you're on a Mac, or Control D if you're on Windows. And that's going to duplicate it. It's going to make a copy of it. Alternatively, you can select it and go to the Figma menu, Edit, Duplicate. And it's going to do exactly the same thing. Or you can simply copy and paste just like you would normally. And let's actually make a bit of room here. So then I'm going to select this group and I'm going to paste in the other color. And now I can get rid of this logo. Pretty cool, right? And just like that, we've defined the two primary colors that we'll be using. Now, what about the secondary colors? Let's move this up a little bit. For the secondary colors, here's what I usually do. I select or I copy the value of my primary color, and then I go to Adobe Color. This is a tool that I use all the time. And Adobe Color is a free tool, and it gives me the option to create a color scheme based on a color. So under the Create tab, go ahead and paste in that value. And then from the left side, apply a harmony rule. This is analog, this is monochromatic, triad, and complementary. Usually, I use complementary color schemes because, just like the name says, the colors in this palette complement each other. They create harmony. So in this case, the first secondary color that I'll be using is this mustard looking color. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go back here, select my frame, paste in that color. And if I don't like the way it looks, that's totally fine. I don't have to use this exact same color. I can use it as a guide and then just use the slider to create my own color and just choose one that I think looks better. In my case, I'm going to use this one, FFC700. Now, I also want an additional secondary color, so I'm going to duplicate this bit. And for this color, I'm going to choose F25C63. All right, now let's move on to my tertiary colors. Let's move this up a little bit. And let's make some room because we're going to create a lot of tertiary colors. To be more exact, we're going to create 7 of them. So let's duplicate this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 using the same keyboard shortcut, Command D, because I'm on a Mac. And now I'm just going to fill these in with the colors that I chose. The first one is 00DA-A7. The next one is 37C2CC. Next is 3A96E8. The fourth one is 64C9FF. The fifth one will be 9E76FE. Then number 6 is going to be CC3 37BD. And then the last one will be FFCA64. All right, so these are the tertiary colors that we're going to be using. Now, you might ask me, Adi, where did you get all these colors? Well, it's just a matter of opening up the color picker and using the sliders here to determine what color I like. And I just went through all of these and I just picked the one that I thought would work best for this, this project. Alternatively, here's another tool that I use and I think it's very, very helpful. It's called Dribble Color. And I'm sure you're well aware of Dribble, the website where you can find design inspiration. Well, you can now search for colors, right? You can pick from one of these predefined colors, or you can simply just enter your own value and it's going to give you a list of results that are using that color. And when you open one of these dribble shots, you can also find the color palette that was used. So I usually go here and get inspiration for colors, or I go to the Adobe Color website and I just hit Explore and I look at the color palettes from this website, or I just pick them by hand. Now, the reason that I went for so many colors is something that I read in the project brief. The client, right at the end, under design considerations, told us that we should make it colorful. And also, the main color scheme should be centered around the color blue because it conveys confidence and professionalism. And they also gave us another option here, grass green, for freshness and novelty. But the main idea is to center the color scheme around blue and also make it colorful. So that's the reason we went for so many tertiary colors, because we want options. Finally, the last step we need to tackle here is to define the grays. And these will mostly be used for text. And this is where having multiple tints of the main gray color is very useful, because you might use this bit for the main headings, and you might use this bit, which is 70%, or this, which is 80% for the main text. Now, when choosing a gray color, here's my very simple process. I just create this, this shape here, and I choose my main brand color, I paste that in, and then I duplicate this shape and I fill it with black. And then I just lower the opacity on that black color to, let's say, 90%. And I'm not sure if you see it, but now it's not totally black. Some of that blue color from underneath comes through. So now what I do is I just create another shape and I use the color picker to sample that color. And that gives me my main gray. And if I don't like the way it looks, I can go back, change the opacity of the black. That's a bit too much, maybe 88%. Or maybe I want it a little bit darker, maybe 95%. And then I can go ahead and I can sample that again and choose my gray color. Now, I usually spend a little bit of time on this process until I get the exact color that I want. In my case, it would be somewhere around, I guess, this area. So the final color, the final gray color that we're going to use is 030F1A. Okay, now we can delete this and we can paste in our color right here. And that just gave us the main gray and the 9 tints that we can now use in our design. Alternatively, if you're looking to create tints and shades the easy way, let me show you a very nice tool to do that. It's called Tint and Shade Generator. You can find it at maketintsandshades.com. And what you do basically, let's give this as an example. You select your main color, you paste it in, and you hit Make Tints and Shades. And this gives you the shades on the top and the tints at the bottom, along with the hex code for each value. And at any point you can hover on one of them, copy, and that value is now copied to your clipboard, and you can use it wherever you want. Or if you have a setup like this, you just set a different opacity on each layer and you'll get relatively the same result. And with that, the color scheme is complete. All right, now it's your turn to get busy. If you followed along and worked alongside me, then your color scheme is complete. Great. If not, go ahead and do that right now. Use the templates I gave you in Figma and also the tools that I showed you to create your own color scheme. You don't have to use the exact same values that I did. Go ahead and experiment. That's the best way to learn. Use whatever colors you feel look best. Now, once you do that, you're ready to move on to the next lesson, which is about typography. This is yet another crucial step in the design process, and we're going to tackle that in the next lesson. So I'll see you there.